What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be going through each and every one of the Power 4 conferences across college football and giving you my projected standings. They're all going to come out right within about an hour, 2 hours of each other, but all Power 4 conferences will have a standings or have a projected standings video up on my channel today, and I can't think of a better conference to start with than the best conference in college football, that is the SEC. Before we get started, I just got to tell you, if you want any more information on any of the teams you see on screen or any other team in the nation, well, this summer I went through and predicted each and every one of the 134 teams across the FBS level of college football. Please go watch as many videos as you want, and thank you so much for watching this video because it really does help support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. And if you would like to continue to help support what I do here on YouTube, and if you're as excited for the college football season as me, guys, we are less than a week away from the college football season. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, like the video, comment, share the video out, interact with the channel in any way you can. It all helps support what I do here on YouTube. And without further ado, let's dive on in to the projected standings for the SEC. Although, okay, I lied. I want to tell you a couple more things first. Later this week, I will be uploading tomorrow, that is Wednesday as of recording this video, my top 25 for the preseason. So I'll sort of update that and give it all out to you fine people. We also are going to be going through the biggest game in week 0, that is Florida State and Georgia Tech. Our first prediction video of the season will be that video, as we will be predicting all of the biggest matchups in its own separate videos throughout the entirety of the college football season, with a week 0 preview to come later on in the week as well. So that all you can look forward to before Saturday hits. And then college football is here. Next week, we'll wrap up with our group of 5 standings predictions, my college football playoff predictions, other things I'm excited for during the season, as well as previewing some of the biggest matchups that we will see in week 1. That's sort of what you can expect on the slate. But again, for today, all Power 4 conferences will have a video up on my channel for their projected standings. And in these videos, as you see right down below me, I have went ahead and predicted the conference championship game, as well as my predicted conference champion. And in the Power 4, likely a team that's going to end up getting the first round bye. So we'll talk about what you see below me here, but let's talk about what you see over here first. And I'm not necessarily going to go through each team. There are just a couple teams that I kind of want to point out here, and maybe I'll mention every team here at some point. But I think general rule of thumb, I'm going to start towards the top and work our way down to the bottom. So all these teams that you kind of see on the left-hand side of the standings bracket, Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Bama, Missouri, Tennessee, maybe even A&M and the LSU Tigers, I think are all teams right there. Maybe if you go include Oklahoma, Auburn, if they really can figure things out, I think are all teams that can contend for the college football playoff. That's 10 teams right there, and big bona fide contenders: Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Bama, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU, maybe even A&M, maybe Oklahoma in there as well. Those are 9 teams right there that I don't think you're crazy at all to say that they would be, a team that can go reach the college football playoff. None of those teams would surprise me to really get in there. Maybe A&M, maybe Oklahoma would be a little bit of a surprise, but Georgia, Texas for sure. Ole Miss probably a lock. Bama probably a lock. Missouri probably in there. Tennessee, LSU maybe need some work to do. But overall, guys, again, the SEC, this is just why they're the best conference in college football. You got so many teams here that not only can compete for a spot in the playoff, but can go win the national championship. And Georgia and Texas are no two better teams that you can go pick to win a national championship. You can't really get much better than that. They got 2 of the better quarterbacks in the nation. Carson Beck is at Georgia. You got Quinn Ewers there at Texas, loaded with talent on both sides. Georgia's going to have a really good defense this year. The wide receiver room is good. The running back room is going to be good. The trench play is absolutely outstanding at Georgia. And really no surprise here as to why I have them going 12-0. Now, Georgia's schedule is a lot more difficult than it has been in the past because, again, they were in the SEC East, which was considered the weaker division among the SEC when you compare that to the SEC West that had the likes of Bama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and a lot of those other teams in there. Georgia this year has to play all 3 teams that you see below them on the standings board. They have to play Texas. They have to play Ole Miss. They have to play Bama. So the road is not easy for Georgia, but I think Carson Beck is going to have an amazing year. That defense is going to be absolutely electric, and that's why I have Georgia going undefeated this year, and they're on top of the SEC. But if you want some other contenders, let's just talk about the 3 teams I mentioned right there. Texas, especially if they can figure out the defensive line situation, because they lost a lot of talent there, I think they're going to be fine. They got Trey Moore coming over from UTSA. He was a beast with the Roadrunners last year. Quinn Ewers is back. They got some really good wide receiver pieces through the transfer portal. Running back room is young, but it's extremely talented. Secondary is good. It added some more transfers. Linebacker room will be good. Texas is going to be one of the best teams in college football this season, along with Georgia, and they get to play Georgia at home. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Texas beat Georgia in the regular season, and then maybe Georgia gets them back in the SEC championship, or even vice versa. Again, you'll see I have Georgia beating them both times, winning the SEC. I also have Georgia beating Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is also one of those teams that I just think is going to be really good this year. Jackson Dart is back, and yes, Quinshawn Judkins is gone, but you have a loaded wide receiver room, a defense that I think is going to improve substantially from where it has been previously. And again, that's not to say that it was bad. The defense has improved year after year under Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and it's going to get a heck of a lot better this year. One of the teams that were huge winners in the transfer portal. A lot of really good talent coming over to Ole Miss. They're going to be really good this year. Bama and Missouri are here as well. Now, when you talk about Bama, it's a very sort of interesting team this season, right? Because you returned Jalen Milroe, but a lot of pieces did transfer out. Granted, you get some talented pieces transferring in, and you also lose Nick Saban. Kalen DeBoer's coming in. Bama is one of those teams this year that, look, yes, they're a little lower on the standings board than they typically are. Again, in terms of overall standings, Bama maybe second, third, if not on top of the SEC. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to see some growing pains this year, but overall, if you're counting on Bama to have a poor year, and by their standards is 8-4, 9-3, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think maybe 9-3 is the floor, but 10-2, 11-1 is kind of where I expect Bama this year. I still like Jalen Milroe at quarterback. They got a lot of good pieces. Kalen DeBoer is an exceptional head coach. And Bama, I think, is going to be a pretty darn good team this season, as are the Missouri Tigers. What happened last year at Missouri is going to maybe not necessarily repeat itself in its entirety, as Blake Baker has gone off to LSU. We'll talk about that later. But Missouri is a team right there that, look, you return Brady Cook, you return Luther Burden to replace Cody Schrader. You got two guys coming out of the Sun Belt, Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel, that were fantastic. And even though, yeah, Baker and a lot of defensive talent is gone, I still think that defense is going to be pretty solid, but that offense alone is going to carry them to a lot of wins this year. And Missouri's a team that absolutely can break back in to the college football playoff. Those are the five teams right there that, again, have a pretty good shot to make the playoff in my eyes. These next few teams might need a little bit of work. I want to talk about Tennessee and LSU first, because both of these teams, I think, are interesting in their own way. So let's start out with the team that I have highest. And again, I have worked out tiebreakers myself out of the teams that went 5-3 here. Tennessee, just the way that I have worked things out here, would end up getting that top spot. But again, I could be missing a big tiebreaker or something like that. So again, this is just the tiebreakers that I usually worked out, which are head-to-head and kind of how they fared against higher level teams in the SEC, as well as overall record if there is no head-to-head, right? So when you take a look at the Tennessee Volunteers here, Nico Iamaleava's taken over, got a lot of good wide receiver talent. The secondary's got to get it figured out for Tennessee, though, and that's why I think they maybe need a little bit of work to get into the college football playoff. But again, it's doable for Tennessee. If Iamaleava is a stud like everyone thinks he's going to be, like I think he's going to be, the offense is going to be humming under Josh Heupel. It's up to that defense to get some things turned around from last year to sort of get back to where they were in 2022 with a more aggressive, punishing defense. If Tennessee can do that, they can very well see themselves in the college football playoff, but still a very good year for Tennessee. LSU is here as well. Now, LSU is losing a lot of great talent from last season, and I don't think their record is going to be as good as it was last year, but this is still a very good football team that absolutely can crack the college football playoff. Garrett Nussmeier has waited for his shot. He's going to get it. It is well-deserved. LSU still got a lot of really good talent. Harold Perkins is going to be one of the better defensive players we have in the country this season. Again, I just think LSU may need to pull out a win here and there and be able to upset and beat a team that, well, they're maybe not supposed to be. They have a great opportunity when they play the Ole Miss Rebels. They're going to be able to battle with them. They have a game against Bama there as well. LSU is going to be a team that's very interesting to watch. Again, just because they're in sort of the mid of the SEC doesn't mean they were a bad team. I mean, the SEC is just loaded. LSU's right there in Texas A&M. So let's talk about the Aggies here, because they're a team that I think Mike Elko, he's going to be ready to win in his first year, especially if Connor Wigman can figure things out and develop like he needs to at the quarterback position. Texas A&M is going to be able to take a big step this year. Yes, they lost some talented transfers, Evan Stewart, Walter Nolan, some guys of that nature, but you still have a lot of talented pieces. And look, A&M probably in the 9 teams I mentioned there, the top 9 teams that I have in the standings board that I mentioned could be players for the college football playoff. A&M is definitely going to have to get some things figured out. Maybe a little bit of a culture change is needed there as well. But all in all, very, very good team. And I think they're going to fare very well in the SEC this year. Texas and Oklahoma are the newcomers this year. And I think Texas, again, you see no secret. I think they're going to fare very well. Oklahoma, different story. I think the offense is going to see great success because I think Jackson Arnold is a stud, and they return most of that wide receiver room as well as get Deion Burks coming over from Purdue. The defense, though, which is really weird because you think with Brent Venables, the defense should be the strong suit here. That's what needs to get better. And that's just what I see Oklahoma struggling with in the SEC this season. All in all, still a good football team, but I just think that Oklahoma's going to see their struggles, especially defensively, going up against some of these offenses that they may have to face, even like Texas, their rival, which, again, they could very well beat. Some things can go right for Oklahoma. Then things get interesting as you move down the board. You have Auburn here, you have Florida, you have Kentucky. These teams right here are going to be very interesting to watch. Florida especially. Florida's schedule is hard, and going 3-5 through that hard schedule, I mean, just Florida has a very, very, very hard schedule this season. Yes, absolutely. But when you take a look at the Florida Gators, look, Graham Mertz is back, and even though I have them short of a bowl game, it's absolutely a team that can go ahead and make that bowl game. They can go 6-6. They can go 7-5. Maybe even 8-4 is in the cards for Florida. They got a lot of good talent transferring in. Granted, some big pieces do leave. Trevor Etienne is now going to go over and play at Georgia. And again, some other talented defensive pieces leave this team as well. Florida's schedule is just really, really tough, man. That's exactly why I have been missing out on a bowl game. But hey, again, like I said, Florida can pick up some wins here and there. Auburn and Kentucky, I think, are going to be kind of around that mid tier, but Auburn is the team that I do expect to surprise a little bit more so than Kentucky if one of those two teams happens to surprise. Again, I'm not necessarily predicting them to surprise because 7-5 is not a surprise for Auburn. Hugh Freeze is going to get this team to improve from where they were last season. It's just going to happen. I don't see quarterback play being as bad as it was last year in the passing game. Well, that's the thing, though, right? Can Peyton Thorne develop that passing game? Can he get back to where he was when Michigan State almost made that run to the 4-team college football playoff when they were really, really good, right? If he can get back to that sort of standard and get back to playing that caliber of football, Auburn is going to end up probably surprising and knocking off a couple teams that are ahead of them on the standings board here. And then also like Kentucky. New quarterback, Brock Vandegrift is coming in. Got some good weapons, got some good defensive pieces. It's just Kentucky is one of those hard teams to figure out because I could see them easily being right above that 6-6 mark, or they're going to be right around that 6-6 mark this season. But you move down the list there, and I do think it's going to be a struggle for the rest of the teams that I haven't mentioned. Florida, it's going to be a struggle for, not because they don't have good talent, it's just because that schedule is really, really hard. But for Arkansas, I think it's going to be a struggle. You lost KJ Jefferson, a lot of other really good talent, especially defensively, and even though Taylon Green comes in, he didn't fare that well at Boise State last year. He might fare better at Arkansas, sure, but it's going to take some things. And, Sam Pittman's definitely going to have to turn it around there. Again, not that it's, Mississippi State could have necessarily gone out and got someone better with what was offered at the time of hiring Jeff Lebby. I just don't think Jeff Lebby is going to work super well as a college football head coach, at least right away. So I think the fans in Starkville are going to be very disappointed by that 4-8 record, but I do think ultimately that's what's going to happen. South Carolina, though, this is one of those teams that I just kind of have disappointing this year. Yes, the Gamecocks return a ton of talented pieces, both offensively and defensively, and really you look at that 4-8 and you think, well, shouldn't they be a little bit better? Absolutely, they should be. Again, that's just the reality of college football. Some teams are going to excel, some teams are going to struggle. I have South Carolina struggling, and then I have no need to explain why Vandy is all the way down here at 3-9, 0-8 in conference. They're just outmatched by everyone else in the SEC, especially everyone else that is on their schedule. So you take a look at my SEC standings board. Let me know what you guys would change. Let me know some things that you would tweak. What teams should be higher? What teams should be lower? And we'll talk briefly about the conference championship game, a rematch of a game that gets played, I believe, in Austin in the regular season. Look, much as easily could have Texas winning this game as well, because it's really hard to beat a team once. It's really, really hard to beat a team twice. But especially when you compare trench play, I think Georgia's offensive and defensive fronts will be able to give Texas fits. And yes, beating them both times here again, fairly bold prediction. Probably is more likely that they split, but I got Georgia. Any way you slice it, I got Georgia and Texas in the SEC title game. Georgia winning the SEC, and they will pretty much automatically get that first round bye in the college football playoff. Again, let me know what you guys would change. Very much so looking forward to watching some SEC caliber football this season. It's going to be a fun season in the Southeastern Conference. We'll move on to the Big Ten next. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.